Well, it is April 1st, and so that perhaps should not be a surprise that the weather has been playing a bit of a cruel joke on us here in Kershaw, South Carolina. Welcome back to Grid Life South Carolina at Carolina Motorsports Park. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Creamer for Grid Life Touring Cup race number 2. The weather has passed us, Greg. The track is wet, but that doesn't mean we can't race.
It does not. This is road racing, and it was a stout storm that moved through. Lots of thunder, lightning, and heavy rain for a while. So what's going to happen here in the gator teeth in these curbs, there's going to be water off the side of the track instead of having just a little dry grass and dirt. It's going to be mud, really slick. This race coming up is going to require a lot of precision on a very tricky track.
Grid Life's coverage is powered by Hyundai N. Hyundai N, never just drive, and Falcon, the official tire of Grid Life Track Battle. Greg, this is a fun racetrack. It's 2.3 miles around 14 turns. Let's have a look at our Hyundai N track preview. 2.2 miles and a lot of undulations and texture, as you sometimes say around here.
Yeah, I got that one from Tom O'Gorman, actually. He said it's not like you got big elevation change, but there is texture, and it's challenging. That first turn, tight left-hander into a quick left-right flick. You've got to line up for the exit of 3, 4, and then into 5, 6, and 7. Extremely tricky, and on a damp track like this, balancing the car through there is going to be really a major challenge, but you got to get it done right because, Kyle, out of that comes one of the longest straight blasts down into turn 8.
We've seen lots of drivers slipping and sliding, leaving turn 7 on that straightaway to turn 8. You head downhill, then you're down on the brakes, down through the gears into turn 8. It's sharper than it looks, but powering out of that corner, turns 9 and 10, those are flat-out kinks.
They are, and the nice thing is you get a little bit of a climb right as you get out of the braking zone into 8, so you can use that little bit of gravity to help you accelerate through there. That kink in 10, near flat out in some cars, flat out in most of the GLTC cars in the dry. We'll see what they do with it in these damp conditions. Nice overtaking area, tight hairpin into 11.
And then turns 12 and 13, this is the balance section. You got to get the car right out to the edge of the road and kind of ride the rim. Into turn 14, another good passing opportunity there. It's a short sprint from 13 to 14, but that last turn, it's critical. The race came down to the final corner yesterday.
You bet it did, and it's a good overtaking area. If you have somebody make a little mistake exiting 12, as you said, it's a short shoot there once you straighten up before you got to make the move. But it is possible. This is going to be a supreme test. A lot of the drivers here have never been here before, so they have no clue how this thing races in the wet. We've got a number of local drivers making their first ever starts here. We could see some surprises in this one, Kyle.
All right, here, wow, we see everyone trying out the grip levels here, leaving turn 1. It is absolutely soaking, big standing water puddles. Look at this cool pace car, this Volvo touring car looking sort of thing.
Yeah, that looks like Rickard Riddell's driving that thing. That's really cool. And this race now plays into, we talked earlier in the weekend about the strategy. You have to look at these 4 short sprint races, not as individual sprints where you just hammer it, as chunks of a bigger picture, a 4-element race, right? Because the finishing order of this race establishes the grid for race 3. If you are in a top 5 spot and you're going to be a points player, especially in absolute back, this is one of those times where risk versus reward in these conditions, that's going to be a huge strategy call.
We'll update you on a couple things from yesterday. We saw James Houghton get some damage at the start of race number 1. Well, it turns out there was 3 cars that kind of all had an accordion effect into turn number 1. Here's the difference between Grid Life Touring Cup and some other series, Greg. All 3 drivers went up to Renee Hines, our steward, at the end of the race, and all 3 took blame for it. And that doesn't really happen anywhere else. It was really cool to see. Everybody's good, no damage carrying on. We're going to continue, and everyone keeps their spots for the start.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Matan Rosenberg, they went to him and said, can we get some video? And he said, you mean because I hit James? Yeah, that was on me totally. And then they got to James, and James said, no. I was the one. I got into the back of Paul, and there was no place for Matan to go. And then Paul said, no, my motor cut out for just a minute. And that's the kind of respect that this series generates, and that's what makes this place so special. In that open, the thing that really strikes me always about laughing and smiling and having a good time, and that's the paddock vibe here, and that's what makes it great. But make no mistake, when this green flag drops, These guys are going to be racing.
We're going racing. Quick rundown of the top 10 here in your grid. Jeremy Swenson won the first race yesterday. He's on the front row alongside Luke McGrew. James Houghton, Matt Waldbaum share that second row, both in K24 powered cars.
And then in the third row, it's Matan Rosenberg, the young man moving to the Corvette this year, and the number 1 in the Corvette of Gary Wimble. And then in the 7th starting spot, 45, Paul Curley, who didn't get a lap that he would have wanted after that incident in that first race, so he's starting back a little bit, and he'll be joined by the 71 of Joel Morrison, who is on form this weekend.
Really is doing very well. Ronnie Vidoc started tail of the grid in race 1, got a great lap, puts him 9th for the start of this one alongside a couple new guys, John Koslow in the number 11 and James Cathers. Both of those drivers making their first starts in 10th and 11th. Ryan Power as well, Carlos Mendez, 15th and 18th respectively, also new drivers to this series. A couple other updates. One of the drivers that never took the green flag yesterday was Eric Jensen. A diff failure on that car, put in a different differential that he's speed limited to 110, but Greg, something tells me that that's not going to be a huge deal in this particular race.
Not in the wet like this. That might actually act like a form of natural traction control, which could be cool. And Zach Lavoie, who we know is very quick, starts at the back of the field. And so he's going to be fun to watch coming through the pack. But here's the thing. In the wet, weight is your friend as long as you don't overshoot a corner. But it does give the car a little bit more plant. And when it's wet like this, you need a rain tire of sorts that gets the water out from underneath the tire, but you still need those tires to get hot to generate the grip. Those vets are heavy, and they are going to have, I think, a really good advantage up front. But James Houghton's in a front-wheel drive car that we know is quick in a straight line, so he may be able to have some fun here. This is a 2-pace lap start, by the way.
Yes, the lights are still on the safety car. That means one more time around we should be going green. And the other thing to consider in this race, Greg, is we talk about risk versus reward. Well, let's also talk about the potential for a full course yellow. We don't like that potential, but it's real. If anybody goes off and gets in the gravel trap, this race will go full course yellow. We do not necessarily, especially now they're behind on the schedule, we will not extend this 12 to 15-minute race. The time block is the time block. So if someone goes off, you better hope that you've got the spot you want to be in, because that's where you're going to be frozen.
Yeah, absolutely. Do everything you can as soon as you can without taking awfully big risks, as you point out. And the other thing is what the drivers in this series are incredibly adept at, and it's all part of the sportsmanship that this series engenders, is if a driver has a problem, they will make every effort to just find a safe place to park that doesn't require a caution to come out. Now, sometimes, especially in wet conditions, you go off, you get stuck in the mud, you're at the bottom of a slope, you've got no grip, things happen, but they're very good at that. So fingers crossed here that we'll be able to get this one going. If we do, it is going to be phenomenal.
If you're new to Grid Life Touring Cup, this is a 200 treadwear tire series. So in the past, we raced on slicks, and when the rain came, we raced on wet weather tires. That's not true anymore. Still 200 treadwear is allowed. One of the popular tires for this particular category is the Continental ECS. That's a tire that a lot of people run kind of as a wet tire, but nothing specifically for rain is permitted here. So this is going to reduce that grip level just a little bit. Tom O'Gorman has told me in the past that the wet weather tires they used to use when they ran slicks, they were like cheating. You didn't have to really race a rain line. You could basically just drive the dry line and have grip. Not going to be the case today. Avoid those puddles and stay out of the oily and slick inside groove.
Well, and that's what I've seen, and it's very smart. A lot of the drivers that are knowledgeable about all of the nuance of racing have been exploring different lines. I've been watching in that front group in particular. I'm seeing guys way out here or way to the inside in another corner going, where if I need to make a move, where will I find that grip? Because remember, in this series, if the guy behind you has overlap and he establishes it early enough, you have to give him the line on the inside, which in these conditions, you want to give him a little more room because that inside, as you said, could be slippery, and he might skate just a little bit. But also, that outside, oftentimes that's the faster line around a corner. And so, if a guy gets overlap on the inside, I'd grin because I just drive that rain line around the outside and gap him.
Here's a key. A lot of the cars up towards the front are pushing with a rear-wheel drive layout. James Houghton is up in 4th place with a front-wheel drive car. It is pulling the car along. That's going to be key in this wet weather race. He's going to have a lot less problems with oversteer. If he can keep it on the road, I'm going to pick that 41 as my favorite to win.
I think he's got a real shot at it, and that car is a rocket in a straight line. Doesn't come off the corners normally as good as the Vet, but top end it's there. Well, that front-wheel drive is going to negate that advantage by the Corvette, so I think you're spot on.
All right, field rolls out of turn 14. You're watching Grid Life Touring Cup race number 2 from Carolina Motorsports Park. This is the second round of GLTC this year, the first round of the Grid Life Festival Tour. Green flag flies, and we're off and racing at a very wet Carolina Motorsports Park. Side by side, Corvettes into turn 1. Swenson's got it, McGrew on the outside, and it's Houghton, Waldbaum door to door, and so far so clean through the first very tricky corner.
And there goes Houghton. He's already gone by Waldbaum, and now I think he got McGrew as well. That's what we're talking about. Got that car straightened out, went to the throttle. It paid off.
Excellent turn 1 by the field. Houghton up to second place, past that number 7. Behind him, Paul Curley is working his way by young Matan Rosenberg, and there is the Birmingham Road and Race car. I think that was the 98 car, rather, or the 68 of Andrew Rains, who's working his way by. A little bit tight there. Ronnie Vidoc running out of road next to, I think that's Rosenberg. Out of turn 7, though, Swenson leads the way. Houghton trying to track him down.
I'll tell you, Vidoc, from what we saw in yesterday's race, coming up through the field like that, he could be a substantial, certainly top 5 contender here. And you can see some good racing back in the field everywhere we look. You always find some absolutely spectacular racing. Leaders up into 8.
Lena Chin side by side with a teammate. That's Zach Lavoie. Actually, no, she's a little ahead of Zach Lavoie right now, but working her way down towards turn number 8 and now powering up onto the back straightaway into turn 10. This was flat out in the dry. No more in the wet, Greg.
Absolutely not. You're tiptoeing through right now. And, of course, visibility. The faster you go, the higher the wall of spray that you're driving into. And so this is a great little scrap here, and a big lunge down the inside by Matan Rosenberg. Does he get the car woed down? He does. Wimble a little bit tentative going in, and Rosenberg made him pay.
Can't blame him. You know, you go off into turn 11, you don't want to overshoot, so he was very careful. Swenson leads. Look at the gap he's got on Houghton. It's about 10, maybe 15 car lengths. Houghton's got Waldbaum behind him. He was dealing with shifting issues yesterday, so wasn't finding as much pace as we'd expect. And I see Ronnie Vidoc working his way up through the top 10 as well.
Yeah, he's going to be something to watch. And I think here, Swenson 1 is so experienced.
Whoa!
And
side by side behind, it's Waldbaum around the outside of the 41. So Matt Waldbaum from ASM given second place a go.
That was an incredible move. Does he pull it off? He's going to have the overlap down into turn 1. And McGrew lurking right there. And Rosenberg coming up in no, he's falling down the order suddenly. All right.
Into turn 3 now. Waldbaum up to second place. Can he track down Swenson? The gap's 2.4. Houghton and Luke McGrew. Ooh, big slip there by the number 7. And then Rosenberg down to 7th. Ronnie Vidoc up to 6th place. A great climb for that DC Sports Integra.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, but so is Matt Waldbaum. In these conditions, rear drive and not as heavy as the Vet, where you'd think it would get the tires to come up to temp just a little bit quicker, and it doesn't have quite the grip because of the weight, working his way around a few of those cars. That's pretty impressive stuff. And now, what, about 10 car lengths behind Swenson, officially at the line, 2.5 seconds.
One car a little slow at the bottom of the screen. I think that was Tony Marchev in the number 17, who's had a good weekend so far. Started up inside the top 15, I believe, but has slipped backwards. Was very slow into turn 4, but might just be being careful. Not sure that there's an issue yet. Now into the backstretch. Look at Swenson searching for dry line. Now back onto the left because you have to arc it no matter what to carry speed.
Yeah, and that too may have been just a little dissuading move. Just trying to make sure that Waldbaum didn't try something would be pretty radical down into that kink. But in the wet conditions, that changes the dynamic of the racetrack, and people will try things. And Jeremy just covering all his bases. He's so savvy. The defending series champion, a front runner every year he's been in it, and a good Battle.net is closing up as well. Look at that. Waldbaum making up ground, though.
Yeah. Matt Waldbaum is closing. This is his second season of Grid Life Touring Cup, and he is coming. He's won 2 races in the past. There's Scott Robertson working over Carlos Mendez, who's new to the series. What a baptism this is here. This is quite the experience for a new driver. Robertson around the outside at turn 12. What a move. Big oversteer there right out to the edge of the road. Passes. That was incredible around the outside like that, Greg.
Well, we talked about riding the cushion like you're on a dirt track, and he just flicked that in like a sprint car and just got up and around there. And that outside line would normally be a little bit more slick. We've got a couple of BMWs side by side down into turn 1 as well. And a third one coming into the mix. I think that's Colton Wade, who just squared up behind everybody. He might get both of them down into 1.
Colton Wade driving a brand new build for the Fields Auto Works team and giving it its baptism as well, passing cars and splitting the difference here down the front stretch. Joel Morrison and Joshua Rubenstein fighting for position. That's for the top 10 spot.
And Colton Wade's BMW, by the way, is a hybrid, and I'm not talking about electric and normal engine. It's a BMW with an LS7 V8 jammed into it, and he is giving it, as you said, a wonderful debut here. And that's Wimble and Matan Rosenberg right there, I think, duking it out for that 7th spot. Matan got him, remember, into turn 11, but now Wimble is coming back at him.
Yeah, Wimble's certainly working up to pace, and he's finding a little bit more pace than the 484 of Matan Rosenberg. 18 years old, does a lot of this himself, and for the lead, here comes Matt Waldbaum tracking down Jeremy Swenson, the 2021 champion. He's won yesterday's race and 3 of the races at Circuit of the Americas, but this one, it's getting slimmer and slimmer.
Well, and here's the deal. When you're racing in the wet like this, and it's wet out there, the closer you get to the guy you want to pass, the worse your visibility is, because you're getting deep into that car's spray. And so Matt's there, and he has just been a revelation. In his short tenure here, he has shown some serious skills. And running down Jeremy Swenson in any situation is impressive. But in the wet with the great equalizer, he has been just superb. And you can see he likes that little wider line through there. Jeremy pinches it a little bit. And Jeremy, a little bit of a slide there. Doesn't look like it hurt him enough for Matt to be able to get him down into turn 1. Waldbaum, though, fast lap of the race.
Swenson searching for grip. I don't think he's liking the grip levels he's got. Waldbaum feeling maybe a bit better on the brakes into turn 1, and it's now just 1 car length between them as they come out of the first corner. Slipping and sliding is the purple Corvette. The Viking Performance logos on the side. ASM on the door panel of the number 90. Through turn 3, a wiggle and a wobble. The gap opens up to 5 car lengths now.
I had a chat with Jeremy after yesterday's race, as here we're seeing the Jensen trying to come up through the pack after that problem.
That was Wes Case stuck in the inside of turn number 12. Hopefully he can get back rolling, but as you mentioned, that's Jensen and Tyler Starr battling for position, both in FRS BRZ chassis, one with a V8, one with a Honda-powered K-swap underneath it, and that's Wes Case. Looks like he's got power. There he is. He's back rolling. Good news.
Good, yeah. Keep this one going here. And I'll tell you, Tyler Starr, watch it right there. That's one of the prettiest BRZs you're ever going to see.
Oh, trouble, turn 14. There's 2 cars that are turned around over there. Didn't get a great look at one of them. There's Bob Ross in the 56. Clayton Fitzpatrick goes on by, but he is facing the wrong direction, and looks like the lights are off, so potentially lost power is for the lead. Waldbaum all over Swenson, but not close enough.
I'll tell you, Waldbaum is really fast through 8 and 9, and that gives him that little look down into 10. And Swenson, when I talked to Jeremy, he said he has been fighting all season with this car, a loose tail end of that machine. He said, no matter what I do, if I put really old hard tires on the front and grippy ones on the back, it's still loose. Well, of course, that could be exaggerated in the wet. And so he's doing a brilliant job. And the one thing he is really good at is when he doesn't have outright pace, he drives beautiful lines in terms of a clean defense. And that's really special here.
Ronnie Vidoc's gotten by Luke McGrew for 4th place and moved the DC Sports Integra up deeper inside the top 5. And by the way, the yellow flag at turn 14 is cleared. We should be good to continue. Well, there's a bumper in the way, but we can pass that along.
That's right. Not really on the line unless somebody overshoots. So we're going to let this one go, which is great news here. Now, here comes McGrew. Got a bit of a run out of 14, a little bit better launch, but Vidoc has enough in hand. And the surprise to me is Houghton. As you said, and I agreed with you, I thought Houghton would be right up there, and he certainly looked it, didn't he, in that first lap, but then he's faded a bit.
Well, the rain is also coming down much harder than it was. It was basically not raining anymore at the start of this race. It's gotten worse, and off goes the 18 at turn 14. Colton Wade into the gravel trap. Keep it moving. Keep the tires spinning. Nice. He should clear it. Nice work there, Colton.
That's the one nice thing about rain and gravel traps is it packs them down. And when it does that, you can get out of them a little bit easier. On the other hand, when you do get stuck, you're really stuck. And I think Colton, he couldn't get turned in because he had a guy making a pass on him, and he elected to run off instead of hit that piece of bodywork. So he's looking after his friends as well as his car.
Yeah, the rain is about as heavy as it's been so far, so this is dramatic here. We're going to get at least one more lap. I wouldn't be surprised to see the white flag just to get this one over with, Greg. It's very poor conditions, visibility, and grip levels. We're seeing it get worse and worse and worse, but Swenson still maintains the lead over Matt Waldbaum. It was 2 seconds at the stripe. It's been pretty solid this lap here as things continue to get more treacherous as we get closer to the checkers.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, right now, Jeremy, look at that, finding those puddles out there. That's just how wet it is here. But I wanted to take a look here because Waldbaum has the fastest lap of the race, but it happened before that rain hit. and Ronnie Vidoc is running 3 to 4 seconds quicker than anybody behind him, and a similar pace to the two guys up front. So, keep in mind, Ronnie started 35th in the first race, and then 10th or 9th in this one. He's passed more cars this weekend than anybody else by far. What a drive he's put on. Looks like that white flag's flying.
Last lap around Carolina Motorsports Park. That's probably the best flag anyone could wish to see right now. Swenson slipping and sliding through turn 1. Walbaum is a little too far back there. Ronnie Vidoc just ran his personal best lap of the race, and he continues to close, but third place, I'm not sure he'll get there. Look at this mess down into turn 14. A little bit of lap traffic maybe? What's going on here? No, this is Rosenberg, who's fallen back into the clutches of Wimble, Rains, and the 41 of James Houghton as they come across for the final lap.
Yep. Yeah, there's Wimble, and Houghton has dropped again another spot, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But Rosenberg, who was so fast early, I'm really curious as to what's happened here, unless he's dealing with windshield fogging.
Wow.
And that's, beautiful move there.
That was the 14 of Carlos Mendez passing the 32 car, which this weekend is being driven by a new competitor, Eddie Nakata. Those two have been side by side a handful this race, having a good fight in their rookie race.
And getting back to what I was saying is one of the issues that some of these drivers might be having is the windshield fogging. Houghton comes out, maybe that was it. Maybe he had to pit because he couldn't see. So that's one of the things you have to do.
Whoa, Swenson's off course. Drops a tire on the left, gets it back on the pavement, passes someone else who has found their way off course as well. But into turn 11, it's lap traffic now for the leaders. But Swenson was so close to throwing it all the way here, coming back to the checkers this time.
Well, you've pushed these tires when it was wet but not really wet.
Oh,
splashes. And so now those tires have been cooked a little bit.
Here comes Matt Walbaum, though. Lap traffic in the way.
Yes.
Walbaum closes in. It's 2 car lengths now. 2 more corners left. Now just 1. Walbaum is so close. If Swenson makes a mistake, he'll be all over him onto the front straightaway.
Swenson's got to be really gentle down through here. Don't get on the hammer too hard. Use your power to an advantage. He drove that to perfection, exactly what he had to do.
Checkered flag. Jeremy Swenson hangs on in the wild final moments of race 2 at Carolina Motorsports Park. Walbaum gave it all he had. Second place for the number 90 from ASM. Ronnie Vidoc climbs up onto the podium. What a drive for the 99 DC Sports Integra driver.
He has just been superb when he's been dealing with traffic and the entire thing. But for Jeremy Swenson, after getting out to a lead, then losing it, then building that lead again, dropping the left side tires coming through the kink just onto the edge of the track. There's probably some brown all over the side of that car and maybe elsewhere.
Zach Lavoie passed Carlos Mendez at turn 11 on the outside, and now working over Eddie Nakata in the 32. Here he comes. Lavoie splashes through the puddles at turn 12 and 13, trying to get one more to the inside. Here he comes. Here comes Lavoie.
Oh, he's giving it a run. See if he's going to be able to make it stick. He's got that overlap, but does he maintain it? No, he doesn't. But does he go in deep and give it another go? He can't.
The 32, does he run wide on exit? Huge splash. There's like 3 inches of water down there in turn 14.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's Eddie Nakata. And I'll tell you, Zach coming up from the back of the field, folks, and ending up, I think would he be that top 15 possibly?
It's going to be awful close there, Greg.
Close, yeah.
As it came across the stripe, some wild moments in the tail end of this one. And as the checkered falls, I think the drivers collectively breathing a sigh of relief that they got through. I can't remember a race that was quite as messy. And look, Lavoie did finish P15.
What a drive. Considering the size of this field in these conditions, that was spectacular.
There's the number 6 car working his way around. That's Robert McDaniels. He told me he hopes it rains. Gives himself the best shot possible, and he climbed up through the field quite a ways as well. But again, collective sigh of relief as people finish this one. I can't recall a race that has been wetter and more miserable in terms of conditions for GLTC in recent memory. I remember conditions like this at Autobahn Country Club a couple of years ago, Greg. We didn't race, but it wasn't this bad when we started.
Right.
It just progressively got worse, and what we got is what we got, and Greg, it was fantastic.
It was a fabulous race, and I'll tell you, Walbaum, just mega impressive out there. Vidoc, even more so, but Vidoc in that front-wheel drive car, you knew that he would be moving to the front. Again, how about Robertson's drive? as we take a look at this. But Robertson's drive was spectacular.
Robertson, he did an amazing drive around the outside at turns 12 and 13. We're going to get a look at the results here. There they are. Jeremy Swenson, Waldbaum, Vidoc, McGrew, and Paul Curley, P5. Andrew Rains from Birmingham Road and Race. And look at Scott Robertson,
I
top
know.
10. Joel Morrison, Josh Rubenstein, and Matan Rosenberg, the rest of that top bunch.
Yeah, that was just insane. And I'm looking, Scott Robertson started 23rd and ends up well into the top 10. And, you know, the big question marks for me are Matan and James Houghton. And my guess, and this is speculative, is visibility. I bet their windshield's fogged up.
That could be. Colton Wade finishes 19th after taking a trip through the kitty litter at turn 14. Lena Chin up to 25th. McDaniels 27th. And then there's the bottom of the grid there, 30th through the rest of the field. But, Greg, as far as I could tell, we had a couple offs that were a single car. We might have had one little boop down there at turn 14, but I was so impressed with that first lap. The conditions were completely unknown to everybody, and we got through it clean.
Everybody was clean, and we saw some great moves made, but the moves were made with great respect on both sides. And, yeah, you know, that field, that turn 1, 2, 3 complex is really tricky, and everybody getting through there and even some creative passing being done cleanly, that was impressive. And I'll tell you, Zach Lavoie in the drivers' meeting with 11 drivers new to Grid Life, and there was an ethos to Grid Life and how you go about racing here, which is so special. And in the drivers' meeting, Zach said, let me put it to you very simple. You know, you will not get any respect by shoving your way to the front in this series. And we just saw how good the racing can be when you don't do that kind of thing.
It was awesome to watch, Greg.
It was.
Just another treat. And Jeremy Swenson, I mean, padding the championship lead he's got. It's still really early, but Matt Waldbaum gave it everything he had. With the lap traffic, maybe another lap he would have gotten there. But just goes to show how strong Swenson is. He doesn't make mistakes often or almost ever. We saw a little bit of a slip for just a moment, but he was able to gather it back.
Yeah, he was able to gather it up. And I had a nice chat last night with James Houghton, and I think he's going to be mumbling this to himself now because he's always fast. But he seems to be one of those guys that sometimes if he has any luck, it's bad, right? And he said, I'm a broken human being. He said, I love racing so much that I continue to submit myself to this torture. Every once in a while, I'm a broken human being. And I think he's going to be saying that right now because he had a shot. The way he went to the front early, and I'm guessing that windshield fogged up. If that hadn't happened, who knows?
We've got 2 more races for Grid Life Touring Cup today, so make sure you stay tuned. Drift is coming up next, followed by our Grid Life NOS Energy Track Battle Championship Q3 and Podium Sprint later this afternoon. We're going to step away from Grid Life Touring Cup. Thanks for watching us. We'll be back in a little bit.
Today's high-performance vehicles, built with added tread rigidity for precise handling and an advanced rubber compound that inspires confidence, rain or shine. Get more out of your sports coupe or sedan with the Azenis FK510.
Owning a car can be expensive. It can also be confusing.
What?
And when things don't go right, there's no doubt it could be frustrating. But it can also be a lot of fun. And for those reasons, FCP Hero exists. Check this out. Do you and your car a favor and head over to fcphero.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Chris Forsberg, and when it comes to classics and high-performance cars, I only trust America's #1 racing oil, Valvoline VR1. It's built on Valvoline's long legacy in racing, so I can continue to build my own. With 2 times more zinc than the industry standard, VR1's high-performance formula is tested on the track and trusted on the road to ensure your engine is protected from metal-to-metal contact. And I use it so much, I even got my car on the bottle. That's why whether I'm racing or cruising, I protect everything I drive with Valvoline. Valvoline, trusted for over 150 years.
Be the top #1 thing that you're going to change in your drifting style as you go out there?
Basically just stay off the line because it's going to be inside water. Like, avoid standing water, a little lighter on throttle, and avoid other people if they spin out. So I actually prefer rain driving, so it's really nice. I'm happy. I'm good to be out here. Let's go.